The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, A Legacy of Medical Ethics and Informed Consent. In 1951, Henrietta Lacks sought medical help at Johns Hopkins for vaginal bleeding and was later diagnosed with cervical cancer. During her treatment, doctors removed tumor tissue samples and gave them to a medical researcher without her knowledge. At the time the cells were taken, it wasn't illegal, but arguably unethical. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines ethics as the branch of knowledge that deals with moral principles. Ethics are a vital component of public health initiatives. A balance has to be created between preserving individual rights and protecting the general welfare of the public. There are 4 key foundations of ethics: autonomy, non-maleficence, beneficence, and justice. The HeLa cells did result in numerous medical advances to protect the general health of the public, but violated Henrietta's individual rights when her tumor cells were removed and used without her consent. Human tissue samples have been an important resource in medical research. Tissue samples have been crucial to the development of cancer treatments, HIV treatments, cloning, in vitro fertilization, and so many other scientific breakthroughs in medicine. HeLa cells have been used for biomedical research for over 60 years. There are over 11,000 patented drug items that used HeLa cells for research. Most notably was the development of the polio vaccine. However, during this time period of biomedical research, the Lacks family were unaware that the cells were being used for such purpose until 1971, almost 20 years after her death. Informed consent is defined as freely given consent to participate by a competent person in possession of all pertinent information. There are 8 basic elements to informed consent. First, the person must be made aware of the study purpose and provided a description of procedures. Participants must know all the risks and all the benefits. They should be made aware of alternative procedures that could be available. They should also know the availability of compensation. Informed consent involves making participants aware of how the researchers will protect their identifying information. Study participants should be made aware of who to contact regarding questions. Lastly, participants should always know that participation is voluntary. In addition to the 8 basic elements, informed consent also typically involves making the participant aware of any unforeseeable risks, conditions under which their participation may be ended, or the consequences for withdrawing their participation. Participants are also typically provided with any other significant findings from the research study. Communication is both an ethical obligation and a legal requirement in all 50 states. Providing relevant information has been an ethical obligation, but the concept of informed consent is recent. Before Henrietta entered Johns Hopkins in 1951, one document existed as a set of principles for human research and informed consent. In 1947, an international document called the Nuremberg Code stated that voluntary consent was mandatory for clinical research. This was considered to be the first document to lay out a set of ethical regulations on human research, but it was not a law. In 1965, the Declaration of Helsinki established a set of ethical principles regarding human experimentation developed by the World Medical Association. It's regarded as a turning point in human research. Some of its guidelines include the principle that research protocols should be reviewed by an independent committee prior to initiation, or an IRB, and that research with humans should be based on results from laboratory animals and experimentation. Finally, it established that informed consent is a right for any human subject participating in any clinical research. However, like the Nuremberg Code, this was not legally binding.
Henrietta Lacks nor her family were ever fully informed of the risk or benefits of undergoing a tissue biopsy. She certainly was not aware that her cervical tumor cells taken during the procedure would be given to a scientist to be used in medical research. There was also never a contact person established for any questions or concerns the family had regarding the procedure or her cells. The family was not compensated for the successes of the HeLa cells. Henrietta and her family never truly had a total understanding of her illness or treatment plan, so they did not voluntarily provide consent to the removal and use of her cells. After Henrietta's death, her medical records reveal various instances where clinicians failed to utilize an informed consent process, which would not have been allowed in current-day practices. This quote demonstrates how little Henrietta understood about her treatment plan. She wanted to have more children, but was unaware her medical treatment would make her infertile.
Patient privacy has received much more attention than it has in the past. It is just as important for providers to uphold privacy standards for patients as it is to treat them. Policies have been put into place to make it much more difficult to access patients' medical records, and it puts the power in the hands of the patient. The patient should be able to decide who can view their medical records no matter what the situation. In 1996, HIPAA was introduced to protect patient privacy. HIPAA stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It was created to give patients the right to decide who could have access to their medical records, as well as putting strict laws into place to protect patient privacy. It holds providers accountable for discussing patients' personal medical information with people other than the patient.
Henrietta's identity was kept confidential by her primary physician, Dr. Geiger. He had created a false name to protect Henrietta's identity. In the 1970s, when Dr. Geiger passed away, the identity of the woman responsible for the HeLa cells, Henrietta Lacks, was revealed to the public. This discovery brought great harm to Henrietta's family. When the true identity of Henrietta Lacks was revealed, the family suffered. Due to religious viewpoints, Henrietta's family felt like her spirit was violated. Since her genetics were still being used in modern experiments, her family thought she would never be able to rest in peace. This made several family members very disturbed, causing emotional trauma. Reporters continuously bothered the family and invaded their privacy by wanting more information, but this should not have been an issue because her personal information should not have been released. If Henrietta's confidentiality had been maintained, the family would not have experienced these harassments.